Welcome to the Sports Note for Tuesday, October 31st. Happy Halloween, everyone. And as of midnight, it'll officially be the holiday season. How time flies, considering here in Cleveland we're supposed to get 2 to 4 inches of snow by tomorrow morning. But it may be the end of the spooky season, but now it's officially the start of the NBA season since the last time I came to you guys back on the 17th. I'm home from Georgia, as you can see, kind of back in the office here. We touched on briefly on the Wise Guys how some of the stuff in Jacksonville fell through a little bit. But it all kind of worked out for the best. There's going to be photos and a couple of small videos coming to my personal social media. We'll incorporate those into maybe one of the next Wise Guys shows when we reboot the show here coming up on the 11th. But today, actually, it was the trade deadline day in the NFL, and really the biggest name that was moved was Montez Sweat moving from Washington. But then we had a monumental trade in the NBA involving James Harden of the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, Harden got moved to the Los Angeles Clippers, and the terms were that Philadelphia is sending Harden, forwards P.J. Tucker, and Filip Petrusev to L.A. In exchange, the Clippers are sending back forwards Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, and Kenyon Martin Jr., and a host of draft picks. And some of those draft picks involve some 2029 picks, a couple of, I want to say there's a 2028 in there. Even the Oklahoma City Thunder had to get involved, and that's where Harden started his NBA career back in 2009. And the Thunder had to send a 2026 unprotected first to Philadelphia, and then they're getting back a 2027 first with the Clippers in a pick swap. Actually, the 2027 pick is a pick swap with the Clippers. And the irony now, even more so, is Harden is going from a position that he kind of wanted out with when he went to Brooklyn after getting traded out of Houston, after he got traded out of Oklahoma City. So this is now going to be the 5th team in his career. So he's now headed to Los Angeles, where he kind of grew up, so to speak, and now he's going to be paired with Russell Westbrook, who are the two guys that decided to kind of stay together and maybe get Oklahoma City into the NBA Finals after Kevin Durant basically took the money and ran, when Draymond Green was crying in the bowels of Oracle Arena after the Cavaliers had pulled a 3-1 upset on them back in the 2016 Finals. Now, the Clippers are going to be running out Harden, who just turned 34. They're going to be running out Kawhi Leonard, who's 32, 8-time All-Star Paul George, who's 33, and Westbrook turns 35 on November the 12th, just 2 weeks away. Taking into account that Westbrook took a massive pay cut and he's making just about I want to say a little over 3.5 to play with the Clippers. But then you've also got the idea that bringing in Harden and his $35.6 million contract is now pushing the Clippers more than $13 million over the practical salary cap, because George and Leonard are each owed $45.6 million this season alone, considering they've got a lot of injury history in the last couple of years. If this was maybe 5 years ago, this might have been one of the greatest teams ever put together on paper. You flash forward maybe 5 years, you've got 3 former MVPs with Harden, Leonard, and Westbrook, and George is definitely finished in the top 5 in some of those MVP votes some of those years. But now all these guys are in their early to mid 30s. They're making way too much money and certainly not getting the productivity that they want. Even though, when you think about the way that all the assets moved around, the Sixers finished 3rd in the East in the regular season and went out in the second round in that epic 7-game series against the Celtics, whereas the Clippers finished 6th in the, I want to say it might have been even 5th in the Western Conference regular season, and then got bounced by the Suns in 5 games in the first round of last year's playoffs. the similarities here, and I kind of go into this a little bit more on the blog, so kind of stealing off the thunder of what I just wrote a few minutes ago, no pun intended with the word thunder there. But the idea of Philadelphia moving Harden now the same way that they did with Ben Simmons is becoming eerily similar. Just 2 years ago, Philly ran out a big three of Harden, Simmons, and Joel Embiid, and then once the Sixers got eliminated from the 2021 playoffs, Simmons requested a trade in August, and then that was granted just a few days into the start of the 2021-2022 season. And Embiid then went on to get the Sixers, again, that third spot in the East, and win an MVP, where there's a lot of people thinking that he just won that because they didn't want Nikola Jokic to win a third consecutive in Denver. But then Harden asked for the trade, didn't get it, opted into, well, let's back up here. He opted into his player option for this season back in June, and then when that didn't come to fruition, that the only reason he was opting in is because he wanted to be traded before the start of training camp, then he actually called team president, I'm sorry here, something on my screen just went blank. Then he called Philadelphia team president of basketball operations a liar when he wasn't moved, and now he's getting moved just a week, not even a week, into the start of the 2023-24 season, and he's going to get his money, he's going to get his minutes, especially with all the injuries, but it's also something that there's not a whole lot of return on either side, and that's why I'm saying, as the title of this blog, that there's no real winner in this trade if you think about it. You've got the Clippers now. After this season, they're going to be moving into their new arena, which is supposed to be done sometime either next spring or next summer out there in LA, where it's going to be the renovation of the old Forum. So the Clippers and the Lakers are finally going to be in separate buildings for the first time in decades. You have to go back to when the Clippers were playing in the old San Diego Sports Arena, for that to be a case. And ironically enough, they're moving into the Lakers' old home of where the site of the Great Western Forum was, and it's going to be something that, if you look at it just a few minutes, just not even a few minutes, a few years ago, the Clippers were in prime position to be the focal point in Los Angeles. They brought in Leonard. This was actually before the acquisition of Westbrook and Paul George, and they were definitely trending up while the Lakers were trending down. And then the Lakers had a little bit of a late season resurgence, got hot a little bit here in the playoffs, got into the playoffs, got through the play-in, made a run, and people are thinking that LeBron at 39 years old is now going to start stepping his role back and letting some of the other players, especially Anthony Davis, be the focal point of that franchise. Now you've got all this firepower, playing in the same building at least for one more year with the Clippers, and then the Clippers were definitely on the come up, whereas now it's almost like they've reversed roles again. Is that the Lakers are now on the come up, even though they still boast LeBron out there and they're the ones getting all the media attention, but they're going to be around a middle of the pack team, whereas the Clippers are certainly going to be trending downwards once this deal really starts to formulate here. The Sixers take on all these expiring contracts between the players that were brought in, and it's hopeful that they can free up $50 to $65 million worth of salary cap space to be able to bring in an extra asset, kind of like what Boston did, moving a whole bunch of pieces around that I heard Adrian Wojnarowski talk about earlier, where Boston was able to make that big package to grab Drew Holiday after the Damian Lillard trade a few weeks ago that brought him to the Milwaukee Bucks from Portland. The idea that of bringing in an extra piece could help the Sixers contend for an Eastern Conference championship this or next season is really what the target is. The problem here is that the Sixers have much, much bigger fish to fry, and that's with the fact that Embiid is really being targeted heavily, and especially by the New York Knicks, of being moved there before too long, even though he's still got some time left on his deal. So I don't understand. I understand Philadelphia making the move because Harden did not want to be there. As a matter of fact, he even got locked off the team flight last Wednesday. But it's also something that now they moved Simmons, so they had their big three just a couple of years ago of Simmons, Harden, and Embiid. Two of those three pieces are now gone, and Embiid's probably going to be the third domino to fall. It's all a matter of when, not if he's going to leave. So let me know what you guys think. Who came out on top with this? Where do you think where do you think these two teams are trending? Do you think Philadelphia trending up and the Clippers trending down? Do you think it's going the other way? Do you think the Clippers will still be able to hold off LA for being the better team at the end of this season? Mike and I will be back with you guys on the 11th. No wise guys this week. Just everybody needs to kind of decompress, and I will see you guys here a little later on this week. Take care.